Hey everyone, it's Sevi. The second half of Genshin's 4.4 version brings us two rerun banners, the Koi Kitsune Yae Miko and the tallest Adeptus Xiao. These two characters have been around for quite a while now, and their fundamental build and gameplay principles have remained mostly the same. So if you want a basic and comprehensive guide on them, I recommend checking out my past videos. Rather, this video is mainly to discuss the new additions of characters and equipment since the 4.0 Fontaine update, and how those have affected and updated both Yae's and Xiao's builds and synergies. Hopefully, these can help fill you in on possible new teams to try out and inform your farming goals if you're still in that process. Speaking of goals, one of my goals this 2024 is to form healthier food habits, but since I'm inexperienced with cooking, it's a challenge for me to balance the tasty with the nutritious. If you're in the same boat as me, one thing you can try out is HelloFresh. If you somehow haven't heard of HelloFresh yet, they handle your meal planning and ingredient shopping and give you a box of pre-portioned ingredients plus recipe cards. So literally all you need to do is start that recipe and get cooking. HelloFresh has a ton of meal plans and calorie and protein smart recipes to keep you from getting bored. You can go for quick and easy meals, a plant-based menu, or even just generally fit and wholesome recipes. And if you want to swap items around, like your proteins or sides, you can totally do that too. Aside from that, have a fabulous start to your day with HelloFresh, because for as long as your subscription is active, you can get one free breakfast item per box. So instead of waking up cranky that you still have to spend time making breakfast like I sometimes do, you can simply dive in. And hey, at the very least, it can be a pretty fun way to pick up some cooking skills. So if you're in the US, sign up by clicking the link in the description or use my code and get that free breakfast. Thank you HelloFresh for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to it. Let's kick it off with build updates, starting with Yae. Previously, Yae's artifact best set options mainly pointed to using either a 2-piece combo of electro damage, attack, and EM, or using the 4-piece Gilded Dream set in a Quicken team, which offers a bunch of EM and attack bonuses. Moving forward, Fontaine's first artifact domain brings two full sets that Yae Miko can actually use, the Marechaussee Hunter, and more importantly, the Golden Troupe. To get it out of the way, Marechaussee is a general option for any crit scaling DPS, and if like Yae, the DPS can't inherently manipulate their HP, then they need Farina to proc it. Farina makes it easy to proc the crit rate stacks, but it has to be stacked on field, and it only lasts for 5 seconds. If Yae is played mostly off field, it might be hard maintaining the bonus unless you keep switching her in and out, which isn't that feasible in some teams. So the most ideal scenario to use this is with the condition that she's comped with Farina, and it's a team that gives her a lot of on-field time. The 4-piece Golden Troupe, on the other hand, gives very potent buffs well suited to Yae thanks to her kit's focus on skill damage from her turrets. When Yae is off-field, it can stack up to a huge 70% skill damage bonus. Part of the bonus expires if Yae stays on-field for too long, but she instantly gains it back once swapped off. So how does it compare now to Yae's other set options? Well, if you can keep Yae off-field for as much as possible, Golden Troupe can be your best choice whether in Dendro or non-Dendro teams. The upside of this is if you're focus farming that domain for Farina and other Fontaine characters, you could pick up a good set for Yae. 4-piece Gilded Dreams, though, is more advisable in Dendro teams if you plan to give her some field time. The set's stat buffs apply to all parts of her kit, not just her skill. Attack for all her talent multipliers, and EM having multiple benefits of increasing her aggravate scaling, hyperbloom potential if there's a Hydro on the team, and a bit of converted skill damage bonus via her A4. But if you want the most flexible option, farming and substat wise, especially if you're farming neither the Golden Troupe nor Gilded Dreams domain, then going for 2-piece electro damage, attack, or EM for Dendro teams can still be easier to acquire. I'm looking at you, Strongbox, while being very competitive depending on substats. As for her weapons, Fontaine has dropped some new catalysts as well that she can use, though Kagura's Verity remains Yae's best in slot overall, and the Widsith still dominates as a competitive 4-star option even versus 5 stars. These Fontaine catalysts include the craftable Flowing Purity, which is a very good free-to-play option that gives the right bonuses of attack and elemental damage bonus, and it just requires healing to trigger its full effects. The new BP catalyst, Sacrificial Jade, is a good crit stat stick that can also give EM. You just want to avoid keeping Yae on field for too long since that would lose the EM buff. There's also the 5 stars Tome of Eternal Flow and the Cash Flow, which are both crit stat sticks, but they're best played with Farina so she can reliably trigger the passives that are based on HP changing mechanics. These buff charge attacks though, so they have a bit more advantage in quicken playstyles where she does charge attacks, particularly since charge attacks have no ICD and can always trigger aggravate. They're more like great usable alternatives if you pulled them in their past banners and aren't occupied by another user. As for Xiao's updated build options, the Marechaussee set is also a new choice for him. The 2-piece bonus doesn't cover plunging attacks, so it's mainly the 4-piece bonus's crit rate you're going for. Thankfully, he doesn't even need Farina to enable it, since he HP drains himself in his burst state. Despite that, Farina is an amazing teammate for Xiao, but we'll come back to that later. Now, if you're trying to choose between Marechaussee and his signature set Vermilion Hereafter, there are scenarios that can favor one over the other, and either way, the difference between their potential can be closed by better artifact substat quality. So if you already have a Vermilion set for your Xiao, then you can definitely stick to that. Otherwise, Marechaussee is quite a resin-efficient domain to farm, especially if you have Farina and other Fontaine characters, so you can target picking up a set for Xiao while you're at it. Of course, 2-piece combos are still a very flexible and competitive build choice for him. We have both Anemo damage sets plus several attack sets in the strong box, with the Gladiator's Finale also dropping as a boss material, so that can be easier and faster to build than trying to focus on a full set, especially for more recent players. Then for weapons, we got 3 new pole arms since 4.0, but they're not that remarkable for Xiao. The Rightful Reward buffs HP, and the Ballad of the Fjords, the BP weapon, despite having a crit rate substat, has an EM buff passive, so he doesn't really want them, especially since Deathmatch is there as the other better BP polearm for him. Then the Prospector's Drill is a gacha exclusive, and it does have a bit more synergy with him since it gives attack and damage bonus by getting healed. It's good if you accidentally got it, but not worth trying to snipe in a weapon banner. So all in all, nothing really worth considering for him, and older weapon recommendations still hold true. Now let's move on to updated teams and teammates, with Yae having quite the list. Nowadays, I strongly recommend playing Yae in quicken teams as it brings out her potential and synergies better. Yae has flexible team combinations thanks to her having a mostly off-field role, but also being adaptable for more on-field time to use her normal and charge attacks for triggering reactions or driving other character abilities. Let's go over the new teammate synergies she's gained since 4.0, and they're quite significant. First is Farina, who's a huge addition for many other characters, but as for Yae, she's especially excellent for Yae's Quick Bloom playstyle. Farina's Hydro application is not too fast, which means she will generate Hyper Blooms over time by applying it on enemies with a quickened Dendro aura, but she also doesn't easily get rid of or prevent the Dendro aura from consistently staying on enemies. This means that there will be a lot more opportunities for Yae to still consistently trigger aggravate reactions on them, so her damage is largely a mix of both aggravates and hyper blooms, which can be very strong. In these teams, Yae can assume more on-field time, so her normal and charge attacks can trigger aggravates and hyper blooms as well, especially since her turret targeting isn't very reliable in triggering spread out Dendro cores. But she can also just be more off-field if you have another unit with a more prominent on-field role. Then Farina's Fanfare stacks also give a huge damage bonus buff to Yae, which boosts both her raw and aggravate damage in Quick Bloom teams. Farina is also applicable in Taser teams, which still largely relies on raw electro and hydro damage rather than the electro charged reaction damage itself, so her damage percent bonus buff is still well utilized. Just remember that, as per usual, the main consideration for Farina is having a consistent healer to counter her HP drain. Another hydro teammate that can have good synergy with Yae is Nivelette, where Yae is mainly an off-fielder. Yae provides constant electro damage and application off-field, then mainly quick swaps to use her burst when ready and or refresh her turrets. She also helps enable the electro charge reaction, which consequently helps trigger Nivelette's passive, where he wants the team to trigger hydro-related reactions to boost his damage. Pairing Yae with Navia is a similar situation, and since Navia also wants teammates with good elemental application to help her trigger crystallizes, Yae can offer exactly that. Next, we have Chevreuse, who came in with her specialized support role designed around Overload. If you use a Chevy Electro and Pyro only team, triggering overloads will apply a 40% Electro and Pyro resistance shred on affected enemies, which is basically the equivalent of an Anemo VV resistance shred effect. However, the resistance shred effect only lasts for 8 seconds after triggering an overload, and since you want this to have consistent uptime, be mindful of re-triggering overloads in between your rotation. You can spread out Chevreuse's skill in burst casts, or having another Pyro teammate that can reapply Pyro can help with that. Since Yae's turrets will stay in battle even when she swaps out, it's all the more convenient. Additionally, Chevreuse also provides an attack buff and healing over time effect, which gives her a nice utility consolidation. So in essence, Chevreuse enabled and strengthened the Pyro Electro team archetype, and I appreciate that it streamlines how Yae can fit into such a team, with her Electro turrets contributing very well to consistent overloads over time. Last and most recent on this list is Xianyun. If you got her, you can have some fun with a plunge Yae playstyle. Xianyun can VV Shred Electro to further boost Yae's damage, and since plunge attacks have no ICD, they can always apply and trigger an electro-related reaction. With that, I recommend doing this playstyle in either an Aggravate or Quick Bloom team, so you can consecutively trigger Aggravates every plunge. And if it's a Quick Bloom team, the AoE damage of her plunge will also help trigger Hyper Bloom on the spread out Dendro cores. And since Xianyun provides healing support, she's a good combo with Farina Quick Bloom if you have them both. So what can you look forward to in the future for Yae? Well, it's safe to speculate that since older reactions are being given new purpose, and with Chevreuse enabling the Overload archetype, Yae's value can continue to grow, perhaps by more characters that can synergize with Electrocharge and Overload-focused teams. And of course, the Quicken variations can continue to expand depending on the Electro, Dendro, and Hydro characters added in the future. So Yae should generally continue to have a solid place in the Quicken template. With Xiao, while there's less to consider, his new teammate synergies are very impactful in pushing his hypercarry potential and making him better than ever. As I mentioned before, Farina has also become a very strong teammate for Xiao. On top of her damage contribution and damage bonus buff, Xiao's own HP drain can help in stacking Farina's fanfare even faster, and Farina can also help Xiao stack Marechaussee Hunter faster if you're using it on him. Farina is a great pull for horizontal account investment in general, and thankfully Xiao benefits from that too. The character addition that's somewhat more tailored to Xiao, however, is Xianyun. Xianyun enables plunge playstyles for a whole bunch of characters, but she also became a core support for Xiao if you're interested in heavily investing in Xiao's hypercarry teams, and in that aspect, she's right up there with Farazan. For one, Xianyun offers flat damage buffs for Xiao to lament even harder. Her Animo particles contribute very well to Xiao's energy needs, and even Farazan if she's on the team. Plus, her healing and buffs aren't confined to an AoE. Another thing Xianyun does is enable the new Pyro Xiao playstyle, which uses her and C6 Bennett to make him lament but in orange. Here, instead of activating Xiao's burst, you use Bennett's burst to infuse him with Pyro and then depend on Xianyun's burst to make Xiao plunge. That aside, Xianyun synergizes very nicely with Farina, especially for Xiao teams. Xianyun's flat damage buff and Farina's damage percent buff balance and complement each other really well. Xianyun's full party healing can counter Farina's full party HP drain and sustain the team. And with a VV user on the team, whether that's Xianyun or someone else, Farina's hydro damage can also be boosted. So both of them have become top tier teammates for Xiao along with Farazan, and putting them all together is regarded as one of, if not the best team for him as of now. But outside of them, Xiao still has many older teammates that you can substitute who can provide defensive support, battery utility, buffs, and or off-field damage. All things considered, we got some significant updates for Xiao mains. I personally think it's hard to imagine what else Genshin could release in the future that will still further improve Xiao's power and potential. I mean, I didn't expect getting a whole character just for plunge playstyles, but here we are. And it's entirely possible that they'll continue surprising us down the line. And that's going to be it for this banner character update video. Let me know in the comments if you're interested in this type of video for future banner characters, and if you're pulling on the Yae or Xiao banners in this version. If this video helped you out, don't forget to leave a like, consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all soon. Take care!